Recorded. This meeting is being recorded. Hello and welcome to homework whatever 16. We're going to work on number 4 of Codecademy, Introduction to JavaScript. So we're on Scope. I'll put the link in the video. Okay, so here we go. We're clicking on Scope. Wake up. Okay, so scope is basically when you can have like different scope in and outside of a function. So scope is sort of like, let's say you have a variable. So right here they're talking about thinking about scope like the night sky, and everyone who lives on the earth has a different sky. So there's like a global sky and then there's like a local sky. So when you're in a local city, you're seeing a different sky than if you're like in a local city in Australia or something on the other side of the world. And so if you have a variable and it's outside of a function, it's like a global variable that's available for all functions. But if it's inside the function, it's basically local to that function only. So you can kind of pass things around and change their value based on where they are. Okay, so let's get going. Block and scope. So this if statement, basically like if and for and functions, anything that has these like curly brackets with code inside is sort of considered to be a block, right? So it would be local, the scope would be local if it's inside this block. So here's an arrow function, and so the body of this function has this variable of color blue. If you log it inside this, it would return as blue. And then if you, let's see, and now in here we're passing in something. We're assigning this variable color to pink and we're logging pink. So still same thing. So like, let's say there's a variable outside of this. If we pass it in here, we can reassign its value. So at the top, declare a variable named city and equal it to New York. And this variable will exist outside of the block. Okay, so we're going to say const city equals New York City. Okay. Did I do it right? Hooray!
Yay!
I'm started a streak. Okay, below city, write a function named log city skyline. So function log city skyline, and then it's parentheses, curly brackets. Below the city view. Okay, there's our function. See if we did that right.
Yeah, I always second guess myself. I'm like,
oh,
did I add something?
Yeah, they might want an arrow function. No, they're letting me do it. Okay. Inside the function body, write another variable using let named skyscraper. So let skyscraper equal Empire State Building. Lette. Why is it complaining about my curly bracket? Okay, let's see if that runs. Okay, and then inside the function include a return statement like this. So in our function, whenever we run it, we're going to return something. So in this case, we're returning a string, the stars over the space, unquote, plus skyscraper, plus, quote, space, in space, quote. It's probably better to just copy that.
I was going to copy paste it.
Yeah.
I've messed up so many times with like not capitalizing your periods or whatnot.
Yeah. Okay, run. Yay, I did it. Okay, beneath the log city skyline function, use console log. Console.log. And then we're gonna log city skyline. So you're basically just logging the contents into a console log. And so then this string will show up over here. No, what's wrong with you? Log city, oh, typo, copying and pasting. Yay. Okay, that was painless. Did you get all the checks?
No, I messed up. I made a typo.
And there's also like, oh, that's not gonna work.
Let's see. That one didn't work for me. Am I missing?
So,
oh, I'm missing the parentheses, maybe?
Yeah, you need the parentheses after the function name, and then to log everything inside of another set of parentheses.
Oh, I see. It's inside the thing.
Yeah.
I was thinking. Okay, there we go.
Okay, next. Concept review. We haven't really learned much. Let's keep going. Because we're still using global and local. Okay, global scope. Scope is the context in which our variables are declared. We think about scope in relationship to blocks because variables can exist either outside of our or within these blocks. I should try to use a funny voice. In global scope, variables are declared outside of blocks. These variables are called global variables. Because global variables are not bound inside a block, they can be accessed, I'm having trouble with that word this week, by any code in the program, including code in blocks. Let's take a look at an example of global scope. Const color blue, const return sky color, return color, blue, console log, blue. Okay, so, yep, we're pulling it in. So even though the color variable is defined outside of the block, it can be accessed in the function block, giving it global scope. In turn, color can be accessed within the return sky color block. Let's work with global variables to see how data can be accessible from any place within a program. At the top of main.js, write 3 global variables. Name the first variable satellite and set it to equal the moon. I'm noticing that they are using they're using const, and for their global variables, and it bothers me, and I'm wondering, like, have I just learned wrong? You only want to use const if it's something that you would never ever want to change the value of, and why wouldn't I want to change the value of satellite? So I'm having like a philosophical issue. Second variable galaxy equal to the Milky Way, and the third one stars. stars equal Polaris, right? That's the North Star.
I don't know. I keep forgetting that I'm like muted and not muted.
Oh yeah, I know. And then there's a key command, but I can never seem to remember it. Below the variables, created in the previous step, write a function called call my night sky. So function call my night sky.
What did I mess up here? Oh, let me see.
Probably a quote.
No, it's capital again.
Okay, I'm gonna copy this return statement because it's a lot of typing. Okay, return night sky, stars and galaxy. Okay, so run. Okay, did you get the function working okay?
Copy pasting the return part.
Yeah, so in this case, we're just like grabbing these global variables.
I did something wrong. Oh, I didn't close the bracket.
Ah. Okay, and then we're gonna console log so we can see consolo. So we can see the return for the function in the console.
Oh, night sky.
Did you get it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're on 3, right?
I'm on, yeah, 3. Okay, concept review. We understand that we can see global variables inside a function. Yay, now for the fun part. So let's look at block scope. So if you define something inside of a block, it's not going to be accessible immediately to other blocks. So we call this local variable. So it looks like this. We have this log sky color has a function, is used in a function, sorry, let color equal blue, log blue, and then if we call the function, we'll get blue back. But if we try to log just the color, we won't be able to get it because it's inside the function. So we'd have to like somehow get it out of the function or call the function to return that blue. Does that make sense? So it's like,
Kind of.
if this is inside curly brackets, and like, let's say I have another another function, I can't use this variable in it. I'd have to like kind of make a new variable. Like you could actually have 2 variables called color, I think, and it wouldn't error. But yeah, this is not available to any other functions. It's only available inside this function. So I have a feeling we'll put that to work. So define a function called log visible wavelengths.
It's so hard to copy paste the
Yeah,
things.
they like grab too much or too little. Okay, happy. Within the function, using const, create a variable light waves and set it equal to moonlight. So const light waves equal to moonlight.
Do you do log light waves or?
No, just const light waves equals moonlight. And there's the W is capitalized. I shouldn't have bragged about singular. I'm all scratchy throated today. I've jinxed myself. Within the log visible light waves function, beneath the light waves variable, so down here, add a console.log, and it logs the value of light waves. So you just copy that variable name and stick it in there. And make sure you don't put quotes around the variable name inside the console log. You just want to call just the variable name. Otherwise, it'll think that it's just the string light waves. Are you running? Cannot tell. Okay, it passed. Did you call? Yes, I did. And the next one I will. Okay, call the log light waves function from outside the function. So this is called function invocation. So you can literally just copy the name with the parentheses, and you're saying run this function. So the way JavaScript works is basically the function is sitting there waiting for something to call it. And all you have to do to call it is just say the name and then use, with the parentheses. So JavaScript knows, oh, you're calling a function or a method or something right now. And then, okay, so we've called that. And then beneath the function call, log the values of light waves to the console from outside the function. So this is not going to work. Because light waves is not available to us. I think it's mad at me for not using parentheses. No, it's fine. Okay, so we're going to try to log it. And I get this error, and the error says, light waves is not defined. So I'm getting this error. And so this is kind of what it looks like if you're trying to call a variable that is not available to global. Okay,
just
cool.
Oh, it's because you didn't add a colon or semicolon?
No, it's because they want me to get this error because I'm trying to call something that's not available. So
mine worked because I added the colon after.
Oh, you added console.log light waves?
Yeah, and then I did a semicolon.
But this
mine
one
ran.
But light waves is not defined. You shouldn't be able to, you should be getting an error. So,
oh yeah, on the side I got, oh yeah, I see.
Okay.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just wondering, it has such weird coloring that I was like, would the color change if I did semicolon? But it doesn't change, so.
It's because it's like off of my screen. The black part on the side is off of my screen.
Oh.
I'm like, have two screens on.
Oh. Does that help a little if I make it smaller?
Oh no, it's okay. I don't.
Okay.
It's fine that you're large.
Just because you're managing. Okay, got it. All right. Concept review. We got it. Let's go to the next one. Scope pollution. All right. This sounds dangerous. Okay, it may seem like a great idea to always make your variables accessible, but having too many global variables can cause problems in a program. When you declare global variables, they go to the global namespace. The global namespace allows the variables to be accessible from anywhere in the program. These variables remain there until the program finishes, which means our global namespace can fill up really quickly. Scope pollution is where we have too many global variables that exist in the global namespace, or when we reuse variables across different scopes. Scope pollution makes it difficult to keep track of our different variables and sets us up for potential accidents. For example, globally scoped variables can collide with other variables that are more locally scoped, causing unexpected behavior in our code. So let's say you have like you have for your like login for your website or something, you have set everything as global. So you have like first name, last name, address, phone number, email, username, password, whatever, your person, what's that called? Whatever, your little profile pic. And all of those are like global, but you also have a first name associated with, like, I don't know, let's say it's like a blog or something, and you have like another first name field somewhere else. If all those things are always set globally, they're going to collide and not match up the way they're supposed to, right? So you could have like first name field, or, you know, in multiple places, right? So you want to kind of keep them to the task that they're assigned, instead of just throwing, like, having a bucket of like words that can have values, right? Like variables that have values. If you just have them in some giant like bucket for all to use, you may use the wrong one. It gets really confusing. So that's kind of the situation they're talking about. Or if you have like a global color and then you have a local color, like which one's gonna win? You don't know which, you know, if you're calling the global versus local. So so here is this example. So there's a global variable called num. It's set to 50. And then we've got this function that also has num that's set to 100. So if we log this one here, if we call this function and we call this console log, we're going to get 100. But if we also print num, this is super weird stuff. Okay, log. So we have a variable num inside the function body of log num. We want to declare a new variable, but forgot to use let. Oh, that's why, because we're using, oh, we reassigned the global. So see how there's this global one? We actually just reassigned that value to 100 and we've logged it out. When we call log num, it gets reassigned to 100. The reassignment inside log num affects the global variable num, even though the reassignment is allowed, and we won't get an error. If we decide to use num again, we'll unknowingly use the new value of num. So like a local one is setting the value of the global one. So yeah, best practice is to not define variables in global scope if you can avoid it. Sometimes you can't. Let's see what happens if we create a variable that overrides a global variable. Inside call my night sky, on the very first line of the function body, assign the variable stars to Sirius. So stars equals Sirius. Sirier. Okay. Did I get the check? Yep, okay, check. And then outside the function, under the current console log, okay, add another console log statement to log stars to the console. So now I'm logging stars. So you would think because I'm global that I would be calling this one, but I've actually reset it. So what's going to happen is I'm going to get Sirius instead of the North Star. Okay, did you get that one to pass?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you for that concept.
Very good.
Very good. Okay, practice good scoping.
Do you mind if I eat? Or
no, go for it. Given the challenges with global variables and scope pollution, we should follow best practices for scoping our variables as tightly as possible using block scope. Tightly scoping your variables will greatly improve your code in several ways. It will make your code more legible since the blocks will organize your code into discrete sections. It makes your code more understandable since it clarifies which variables are associated with different parts of the program rather than having to keep up keep track of them line after line. It's easier to maintain your code since your code will be modular. It will save memory in your code because it will cease to exist after the block finishes. So here's another example of how to use block scope as defined within an if statement, if block. So log sky color function, we have a variable called dusk set to true. Color is set to blue. And if dusk, basically, this is very strange. Let color equal pink. So, okay. So we're logging the color as pink inside the function, but outside of the function, it's still blue. Okay, I got it, or outside of the if statement. So this is a little funky. So we're saying this is basically a new invocation, like a new variable declaration. So anytime you use let, var, or const, you're declaring a brand new variable. So this variable is actually different than this one. It's like holding a different value. So if this is true, then it's going to return pink. Otherwise, it's just going to return the one that's higher up in scope. So this is still local because it's inside a function, but it's like, it comes down to inheritance again. It's always inheritance with this stuff. But yeah, so this is like the child of this function. So this isn't global, but it's like a higher level scope. Does that make sense? Maybe a little bit. Okay. Cool. Yes, 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 yes. Block scope is powerful. Hooray. Instructions inside the function body of log visible light waves beneath the region variable. Okay. And before the console log, okay, where it says add here, create an if statement. So if parentheses, curly brackets, that checks if the region is the Antarctic, or the Arctic, sorry. So if region, and then this is where we want to say double equals Arctic, because if we used a single, it would, wow, I cannot spell. It would reassign it. We don't want to reassign it. We want it to be checking. So we're checking to see if it's the same. Okay. That's all they want us to do now. Let's see if they're happy with my code. Okay, did you add the correct condition inside the if statement? What's the condition? Create an if statement that checks if the region is the Antarctic. If region equals the Antarctic. Let's try a triple just to see if they're...
I was gonna say they probably want a triple or something.
Yeah, yep, they wanted a triple. Okay. It's probably better practice. So inside the if block, define a new let variable light waves. So let light waves, and set it equal to northern lights. So light waves equals northern lights. Okay. So now we're assigning a new value. And then beneath the variable, in the if block, use the console log. So console log to log the value of the block variable inside the if. So
mine didn't pass for the last.
Oh, okay.
It's because I didn't add a space, maybe. Yeah. Okay. Never mind. Lies.
Okay. Oh, Northern Lights. Okay, so now we're console logging light waves inside of the if. And then run your code. Okay, so the first console log that runs is this one, right? So we know that the region is the Arctic, so we're returning Northern Lights, and then this console log runs after that, and it shows that moonlight is still the global or the higher scope value.
Okay.
Okay. Excellent. Now we know that it's not just like global and local, it's global and local and localer and localer and localer.
You earned an achievement.
The localist. Is there a localist? The most localist? Oh, yay. Oh, I completed it already? Oh.
Yeah, it's only 7 pieces or things.
Okay. It's so great that you're getting exposed to more JavaScript. I'm like really happy that we were able to get to more JavaScript this term. Because it's good, like fundamental knowledge that will serve you in the future, I think.
I feel like JavaScript was just so confusing to me.
Yeah, and then it just kind of takes practice, and then it starts to make a little more sense. And for me, I feel like I start to see it in a more visual way the more comfortable I get with it, and that's how I can understand code, is like I understand it as like a physical object.
Yeah, I feel like that helps me too, or just like because I'm such a visual learner. It's easier.
Yeah, it's like the only way is to get our minds to convert like letters and numbers into like boxes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna stop recording. Thank you all for attending this lovely tutorial.
It was pretty short.